You've felt it, haven't you? That twitch in your hand when no one listens. That chill when your voice doesn't shape the room. You say it's about order, about keeping things from falling apart, but you lie. You want control not because the world is wild, but because you are inside you. Something writhes at the thought of being overlooked, and when others smile too long or linger too confidently in silence, your bones ache with suspicion. You call it strategy, but beneath the calculation is hunger, a trembling need to be the one who decides, to be obeyed not out of love, but necessity. You say you seek stability, but really, you seek obedience disguised as peace. And somewhere, in the back of your mind, there's a face you keep dreaming of, mouth sewn shut, eyes watching you without fear. You wake up sweating, but you don't speak of it. That dream, that silence, that gaze. What if they weren't afraid of you? What if they never were? You chase control the way a starving man chases shadows on the wall, mistaking movement for meaning. Every decision you make, every word you sharpen like a dagger, is an attempt to carve certainty into the face of a world that never offered you a crown. You grip the wheel, not to steer, but to stop the ship from capsizing under the weight of your own fear. But you will not admit this. No tyrant ever does. You call yourself strategic, disciplined, pragmatic, but beneath those polished labels lies the real truth. You fear being powerless more than you desire being free. You remember the first time someone ignored you, not disagreed, ignored, as if your voice never reached their ears. You spoke again, louder. They smiled and walked away. That was the moment something shifted. Not a wound. No, it was a seed, a vow unspoken. Never again. Never would you be the one left unheard. And so you watched and waited and learned to speak in ways they couldn't ignore. You mimicked power long before you had any. You became the echo of authority before you ever tasted it. And when it came, when they finally listened, you mistook their fear for respect. You mistook their silence for agreement. You mistook obedience for love. But the truth is bitter and still. You never stopped being the child who was ignored. You simply put that child behind glass, fed him gold, and called him prince. You dressed your weakness in robes of command. And now, the strings you pull are your own. Every order you give, every rule you write, is a whisper to yourself. Please don't fall apart. Please don't see that your empire is made of mirrors, each one reflecting a different lie you told yourself to survive. The weak crave control because they cannot endure chaos, not in the world, but in their own soul. You think your laws keep others in line, but they were written to keep your mind from splintering. You punish rebellion not because it threatens the kingdom, but because it threatens the illusion. You cannot bear the sight of someone who chooses differently, freely, without your permission. Their freedom is a crack in your fortress, their smile a hammer to your mask. You call them traitors, fools, or enemies. But what you mean is they are unafraid. You were never taught how to rule yourself, so you rule others. You were never shown how to endure powerlessness, so you create power through fear. You treat loyalty like currency and trust like a liability. And when someone offers you genuine affection, you push it away. You don't trust what you cannot control. You don't love what you cannot possess. You don't believe in anything that cannot be measured, recorded, or turned into a weapon. And yet you are exhausted, aren't you? You wear your control like a crown of thorns, invisible to everyone but you. No one sees the rituals you repeat in silence, the way you check and recheck, plan and pre-plan, never allowing a single breath to go unaccounted for. You speak of discipline, but it is not strength, it is terror on a leash. And the leash is around your own throat. The puppet who cut his own strings didn't become free. He became frantic, arms flailing, movements erratic, shouting commands to invisible enemies. He thought he was dancing, but the floor was crumbling. And now, you are him. You mistake your independence for mastery, but you are just as bound, only now the strings are inside you. Internalized, memorized, perfected. You don't need a master. You became one. You became your own prison. Look closer. Has your need for control made you safer or lonelier? Do they come to you for guidance or out of fear? When you enter a room, Does it fall silent because of respect or because they fear becoming your next lesson? You do not know, or perhaps you do, and you refuse to say it aloud, because the truth would undo you. The truth would return you to that first moment of powerlessness, and this time, you would not survive it. But here's the secret you avoid most. No one who truly holds power needs to show it. Real authority flows like still water, unseen, but undeniable. The moment you must enforce it, you've already lost it, and so you perform every day a play where you are king, judge, prophet, God. But behind the curtain, you are still the boy voice shaking, begging someone to say, "I hear you," and they never did, and maybe they never will. So you decided to make the world hear you, even if you had to strangle it to listen. But power built from fear is brittle. You know this. You've seen it in their eyes, the subtle recoil, the calculated silence, the forced laughter. They obey you, yes, but they do not follow you. They endure you. They wait for your weakness, for your absence, for the moment your grip loosens, even slightly. And when it does, they will not mourn. They will not remember you as wise, or noble, or brave. They will remember you as the man who could never let go, the man who mistook control for greatness, the man who ruled his fears by turning them into chains and calling it strength. So go ahead, tighten the grip, sharpen the plan, punish the dissent, build another wall, issue another law. But know this, you are not feared because you are powerful. You are feared because you are afraid, and everyone can smell it even if they never say it. You carved a throne from stone, but you forgot to carve a seat for your soul, and now it wanders, restless, watching you from the dark corners of your palace. It whispers to you in moments of quiet, "This isn't power. This is panic in a golden cage." You silence it with work, with noise, with orders, but the whisper returns, always. You think you've escaped weakness, but it lives in everything you control. It sits at your table. It bows before you. It waits in your reflection. And the more you tighten your grasp, the more you feel it, the cold realization that the only one you've ever conquered is yourself. And even that victory feels hollow. So sit on your throne, ruler of shadows, reign over silence. Hold your scepter like a lifeline. But remember, the ones who fear chaos the most are always the first to be swallowed by it, because they forget one truth: control is not protection, it is a mirror, and eventually, every mirror cracks. You sit higher than the rest, but you dare not look down, not because you pity them, but because you fear the height is hollow. Your throne is carved from authority, but it trembles under the weight of your paranoia. You glance left, then right, smile here, nod there. You have trained yourself to detect betrayal in every silence, to smell dissent before it speaks. And yet, despite the vigilance, you grow more alone each day. Not because they've left, but because they no longer speak freely in your presence. And the ones that do, they say only what they know you want to hear. At first, this felt like loyalty, obedience, success. But now the quiet has changed color. It is no longer reverence. It is calculation. They are watching you, not with admiration, but with restraint. They watch as one watches a storm, measuring the wind, studying the clouds, waiting for the moment to take cover or strike. You, once the orchestrator of fates, are now a question mark in your own kingdom. And you know this. You see it in their posture, in how quickly they nod, in how seldom they linger. You have become the center of their caution, not their trust. Their allegiance is tactical. They stay close not out of loyalty, but proximity to power. They wear their masks because they learned it from you. You taught them to fear exposure. You taught them to bend without breaking. Now they bend around you, always bending, never revealing. You wanted to be the sun, but you became the mirror, reflecting fear into every face that looked up at you. And now, when you search for truth in others, all you find are shadows of your own suspicion. No honest voice remains. You silence them all, not with cruelty, but with the elegance of fear. A glance here, a pause there, a reward for compliance, a punishment for deviation. You never needed to scream. You built your palace with silence, and yet you ache for honesty, for someone to look at you and say, "You are wrong." You dream of it, not because you want the pain of correction, but because you want to believe that someone dares to see you. You have become so buried beneath perception, so deeply armored in your own performance that even you don't know what part of you is real anymore. Is it the ruler, the tactician, the disciplinarian, or the terrified child in royal robes? The throne, you've discovered, is not a seat. It is a mirror turned inward, and every hour you spend upon it, you are forced to look at yourself not as the world sees you, but as you have become. You're no longer simply afraid of losing control. You're afraid of being seen without it. You're afraid of being loved for something you didn't earn, afraid of being known beyond your power, afraid that if you step down, they will see you as small. And so you remain, eyes forward, back straight, words cold and calculated. You have built a kingdom where truth cannot survive, and you, most of all, are suffocating in it. You tell yourself the world is too dangerous for softness, that mercy invites betrayal, that trust is a luxury afforded only to fools. But deep down, you remember a time when your strength was not performance, when your eyes were not weapons, when you did not interpret kindness as weakness, and you wonder, was that person naive, or simply not yet afraid? They told you to be wise like Machiavelli, to choose fear over love, but they never told you what fear does to the one who commands it, that it hollows you, that it isolates, that it rots the soul in private while elevating the image in public. They never told you that the prince who is feared must always watch his back, not because his people are cruel, but because he trained them to be. You stare at your reflection in the polished walls, in the wine cup, in the eyes of those who serve you. Everywhere you look, there you are, composed, alert, invulnerable, but it is a mask that grows heavier with each passing day. You've worn it for so long that your real face aches beneath it. You don't even cry in solitude anymore, not out of strength, but out of habit. Emotion has no place in a palace built from fear, and yet your hands tremble. At night, in the quiet, when the guards are posted and the candles flicker, not from age, not from illness, but from the simple, terrifying realization that you no longer know what you are protecting. Is it the kingdom or the illusion? You claim to preserve order, but whose order? One you designed to make the world obey, or one you inherited and were too frightened to change? The throne has no backrest. It forces you to sit upright at all times. A ruler must never slouch, never weep, never hesitate. And so your body has conformed. Spine like a rod, voice like a blade, face like a mask. You have sculpted yourself into an icon of control. But icons are worshipped, not embraced, and you are cold to the touch. Look closely when they raise their cups to you. Do they drink out of loyalty or out of duty when they laugh at your jokes? Is it joy or survival? The throne doesn't answer. It never does. It reflects, and in that reflection, you see what you've become: a man surrounded by applause, yet dying of silence. A ruler who commands armies but has no one left to speak truth in his presence. You could step down, not in defeat, but in defiance. You could burn the mask and let them see what lies beneath it, but you won't, because the mirror is safer than the unknown. You would rather be feared than forgotten, rather be distant than dethroned, rather be hollow and obeyed than whole and unrecognized, because you have built yourself into a myth, and myths cannot bleed, myths cannot crack, myths cannot be loved, only revered from afar. But still, something stirs, a flicker, a ghost of a question. What if they loved you anyway? What if someone one day did not flinch in your presence? What if you let go and the world didn't collapse? What if you're not holding it together at all, but only holding yourself captive in the illusion that you are needed? You never ruled the world. You only ruled the fear of losing it, and the price was everything. So sit upon your throne of mirrors, look into their reflections, see your own eyes staring back, and ask, have I become the thing I once feared most? The man who cannot stop pretending? Because that is what power does to the weak-hearted. It offers them a mirror and tells them it is a crown. You were never trying to protect yourself from others. That was always the mask. The truth. You were trying to protect yourself from being known, deeply, dangerously known. Not just seen, but seen through. Because manipulation is not about power, it is about distance. It is the art of moving the pieces without ever stepping onto the board yourself, and you mastered it. You built charm like a weapon, empathy like a baited hook, laughter like a curtain, every gesture calculated, every smile precise. You learned how to turn affection into a leash, sincerity into a trap, vulnerability into spectacle. They call you intelligent, strategic, mysterious. But beneath every compliment is the same unspoken curse: no one really knows you. They admire the illusion, but not the man. They follow the command, but not the soul. And when they say your name, it is always with a slight edge of caution, because even the closest know not to get too close. Not because you push them away, but because they sense what you don't say. You are always watching, always measuring, always a few thoughts ahead, just far enough to be untouchable. But you are not untouchable. You are simply unheld. You have woven so many lies that even your truths are suspect. You've told yourself that you manipulate to protect, to lead, to survive. But what if you do it because control gives you the only feeling of safety you've ever known? Because honesty makes your skin crawl? Because if you ever said exactly what you felt, you fear the world would not love you but laugh. So you smile first. You charm first. You control the narrative before anyone else can speak. You stab before anyone else can reach. That way, you never have to feel surprise again. That way, you never have to feel anything at all. You cloak your tactics in elegance. You never raise your voice. You don't need to. You know how to win without fighting. How to disappear into suggestion, implication, silence. You've mastered the nod, the look, the perfectly timed delay. You say only what must be said, and even then, only half of it. The rest is crafted in the minds of others, which is how you like it. Let them project, let them interpret, let them fill in the gaps with fear or admiration. It doesn't matter which. So long as they never see the hollow room behind the curtain, so long as they never ask to sit with you in your unguarded state, because there is no such state, not anymore. You have been performing so long that your true self is no longer hidden, it is dismantled, taken apart piece by piece until nothing remains that was not approved, refined, calculated. The last real version of you was sacrificed on the altar of effectiveness. And now, even you are not sure when you stopped being a person and became an instrument, a tool, a legend, perhaps, but not a man. And yet you still smile. That smile, crafted, immaculate, is your last weapon. It hides the exhaustion. It hides the despair. It hides the unspoken truth that none of this, not the power, not the obedience, not the influence, has ever touched you, because you are untouchable in the worst way, untouched. Every manipulation you've done, every tactic, every power play, it has bought you distance, not safety, loneliness, not reverence, isolation, not love. And you feel it most in your victories. When they kneel, when they nod, when they cheer, that flicker in your stomach emptiness, because you know they are applauding the act, not the actor. They fear what you represent. They admire the outcome. But no one longs to know you. Not really. And if they did, you would not let them. You keep a ledger, don't you? Not written, but etched into memory. Who owes you? Who betrayed you? Who underestimated you? Who still doesn't see how sharp your mind truly is? You carry those names like a crown of ice, and every so often, you exact your justice cleverly, subtly, with plausible deniability. Not out of malice, but out of ritual. Because if you don't keep score, then what was it all for? If you don't win, even in secret, then what's left? You cannot stop playing the game, because the game became your heartbeat. And if it ended, if you truly laid down the mask, you fear you would vanish. You no longer believe in love, not because you are cynical, but because love cannot be controlled. And everything you cannot control becomes a threat. So you play roles. You say the words. You mirror the right expressions. You learn what they want and offer it in pieces, never all at once. That way, you remain the one who dictates the tempo. That way, no one ever owns the whole of you. But this is the tragedy: you want to be known. You want to be loved. You want to surrender, not in the weakness, but in truth. But the tools you've sharpened have become too effective. You cannot be embraced without bleeding. You cannot be seen without recoil. You've trained everyone around you to doubt your sincerity, and now you doubt it yourself. So you smile, the last smile of the manipulator. A smile that says, I already know what you're thinking. A smile that guards, that deflects, that says, don't try to get closer. It won't work. But behind that smile, you're tired. Not of others, of yourself. Tired of always being 5 steps ahead. Tired of being admired and never held. Tired of playing God in a kingdom where even you are not free. And maybe, just maybe, you start to wonder what would happen if you stopped smiling. What if you let them see the chaos, the doubt, the grief? What if, for once, you said nothing clever, only something true, but you won't, you can't, because to drop the act now feels like suicide. Not literal, but spiritual. You've built a life on being unreadable, on being right, on being the master of every room. You've climbed so high that to step down would shatter everything. Not just your reputation, but your identity. And so, like a puppet master with no more audience, you keep the strings moving, just to feel alive, just to prove you're still in control of something, but inside, you know they will not remember you for who you were, only for how you moved them. They will not speak of your heart, only of your skill. They will not mourn you. They will study you, analyze you, maybe even admire you, but they will never truly miss you, because no one ever met you. You orchestrated everything except your own salvation. You played every note except the one that would have made you human again. And now it's too late, isn't it? The smile is permanent, the eyes too practiced, the persona too complete. To undo it now would be to stand naked before a world you taught to fear vulnerability. And you, more than anyone, fear hypocrisy. So the final act is silence. The final act is applause. You bow, gracefully, and the room erupts not for you, but for the role you played. And when the curtain falls, you remain behind it, unchanging, still smiling, still unseen, still in control, still alone. Somewhere beneath a palace that no longer exists, a mask is buried. Its mouth is carved into a perfect smile, no eyes, just the curve of performance, eternal. Wind passes through its hollow, and the sound it makes could be laughter or weeping. You bend down to lift it, but your hands are already full with the scripts, the secrets, the throne that followed you into your grave. You look up, and the room is empty. You ruled it all, and still, no one stayed. The game ended, and no one came to collect the prize, not even you. The mask stares back, and for once, there's no strategy left to play, only the silence that never feared you.